Somebody decided how old you were from about 40 feet away, and they did it before they could see your face. It happened in a supermarket car park, or across a road, or at the far end of a corridor. And by the time you were close enough for anybody to see your skin, or your eyes, or the lines around your mouth, the judgment had already been made and quietly filed. At 40 feet, there is no facial information available. None. You cannot see a wrinkle at 40 feet. You cannot see hair color properly, or makeup, or anything that most women spend their money and their worry on. So what were they reading? 3 things: the shape you make, the way you move, and a small number of very specific signals that have nothing to do with your body at all. And here is what makes this worth 25 minutes of your time. Every single one of those is free to change. Not one of them requires a purchase, a treatment, a diet, or an appointment. Several of them can be changed in the next 4 seconds and stay changed for the rest of your life. I have talked a great deal on this channel about haircuts and clothes and glasses, and all of that matters. But it all operates in close range, inside about 10 feet, where somebody can actually see the detail. The 7 things I am going to give you today operate at every distance, including the ones where nothing else you have done is visible at all. And not one of them is your hair. Not one is your face. Not one is your weight. Number 4 is the one I most want you to reach, because it is a small physical habit that almost every woman over 60 in this country does without noticing. It takes half a second to change, and it is probably the single strongest age signal on this entire list. You will recognize it immediately, and you will not be able to unsee it afterwards. Stay with me for that. Let me start with the first, which is the foundation of the rest. The first is the forward head. If you look at a person from the side, there is a line that should run roughly straight down, the ear sitting above the shoulder above the hip. What happens over decades, to almost everybody, is that the head drifts forward of that line. Not dramatically, an inch or two, and it happens for entirely ordinary reasons: years of reading, sewing, driving, cooking, and now looking down at a phone. The muscles at the front of the chest shorten, the ones across the upper back lengthen, and the head settles forward and slightly down. An inch or two sounds like nothing. It is the single most powerful age cue at distance, and here is why. When the head sits forward, 3 things happen at once, and they compound. The upper back rounds, which shortens your total height and changes your outline from a straight line into a curve. The chin comes forward and slightly down, which compresses the front of the neck and creates a fold there regardless of what the skin is doing. And the chest closes, which narrows the shoulders and makes the whole upper body read as smaller and folded in. At 40 feet, that curved outline is legible instantly. It is arguably the only reliable way to guess a stranger's age from that distance, and everybody does it without knowing they are doing it. Now the good news, and it is considerable. This is largely postural rather than structural for most women. It is muscle length and habit, not bone. Which means a great deal of it is reversible, and some of it is reversible instantly. Here is the instant version, and I want you to do it now. Sit or stand however you are, then imagine somebody has a finger on your breastbone and is gently lifting it upward and forward. Not pulling your shoulders back. That is the old advice, and it makes people rigid and uncomfortable. Just lift the breastbone. Feel what happened. Your shoulders settled back on their own, your head moved back over your shoulders, your neck lengthened, and you got somewhere between half an inch and an inch and a half taller. That is it. That is the whole correction, and it works because the breastbone is the piece that actually controls the chain. The longer-term version is simply doing that often enough that the muscles adapt. Set it against something you do many times a day. Every time you stand up, every time you go through a doorway, every time the kettle boils. 10 seconds each time. Within a few weeks, it stops being a correction and starts being where you live. Nothing else on this list will do as much. The second is the careful walk. This one is about movement. And movement is the second thing legible at distance. A younger gait has a few specific qualities. The stride is reasonably long. The heel strikes the ground first with some confidence. The arms swing, and the eyes are up, looking ahead at where the person is going. What changes gradually is all four. The stride shortens. The foot lands flatter, because a flat landing feels more stable. The arms stop swinging and often come in close to the body or hold something, and the eyes go down to watch the ground. Every one of those is a sensible adaptation to feeling less certain of your footing, and I want to be clear that if you have a genuine balance issue, watching the ground is correct, and you should keep doing it. Safety outranks everything on this list, but an enormous number of women adopt the careful walk without needing it. It creeps in from a single stumble years ago, or from an unfamiliar pavement, or simply from footwear that felt unstable, and then it stays permanently as a habit long after the reason has gone, and it is enormously legible. At distance, you cannot see a face, but you can absolutely see how somebody moves through a space, and a shortened, flat-footed, downward-looking walk is read as elderly from across a car park. The fix has two halves, and both are practical. The first is footwear, and I have said this before. If your shoes make you feel unstable, your walk will show it. A flat, well-fitted shoe with a proper sole gives you more genuine stability than anything with a heel, and confidence in your feet shows up in your stride within about 10 paces. The second is where you look. Practice walking with your eyes on the far end of the room or the street, rather than on the ground 3 feet ahead. Your feet do not need supervision on flat, familiar ground. They have managed for 60-odd years. And the moment your eyes come up, your chin lifts, your chest opens, and your stride naturally lengthens. It is all one system. Look where you are going, not where you are standing. The third is the fig leaf. This is standing still with both hands clasped together in front of your body, usually low, around the waist or below. Watch for it, and you will see it everywhere. At gatherings, in cues, in photographs, in every group picture, at every family event. It is a comfortable, polite, entirely unremarkable thing to do, and it does 3 unhelpful things at once. It pulls both shoulders forward and inward, which reverses everything the breastbone lift achieved. It creates a closed shape, a loop of arms across the front of the body, which reads as self-protective, and it places both hands together at the widest point of the torso, which draws attention to the middle. There is also something about what a closed shape communicates. An open posture, arms at the sides, hands visible, chest open, reads as confident and present. A closed one reads as waiting to be given permission. And that impression attaches to a person far more strongly than any physical feature. The fix is not to stand with your arms hanging awkwardly, which feels dreadful and looks worse. It is to give your hands somewhere to be, separately. One hand on a hip. One hand holding a glass at chest height. One hand resting on the back of a chair. One thumb in a pocket. Anything that separates the hands and opens the front of the body. The single most useful version for photographs is one hand on the hip with a little space between elbow and body and the other arm relaxed at the side. It opens the chest, it defines the waist, and it removes the loop entirely. And when there is nothing to hold, simply let one arm hang and rest the other hand lightly at your side, not clasped. It feels strange for about a week, and then it does not. Which brings me to the fourth, and this is the one I promised. The fourth is carrying your handbag in the crook of your elbow. You know exactly what I mean. The bag hangs from the bend of the arm, the forearm comes up and across the body, and the hand is held up somewhere near the chest, often slightly curled. I would guess that a majority of the women listening to this do it, and almost none of them have ever thought about it once. To hold a bag in the crook of the elbow, the arm has to be bent and held up and slightly away from the body, permanently, with a certain amount of tension in it. That is a held, effortful position, and held positions read as effortful. The arm is not relaxed and it cannot be. The second is what it does to the shape. The raised forearm crossing the front of the body creates exactly the same closed loop as the fig leaf. One arm barred across the chest, one shoulder pulled forward, the body narrowed and defended. And the third is period association, which is the strongest of the three. This carry was the standard, correct, taught way for a woman to hold a handbag from roughly the 1950s to the 1980s. It signaled formality and care. It appears in every photograph of every well-dressed woman from that era, which means it is dated with real precision and it dates the person doing it just as precisely. None of that is about age. A woman of 40 who carried a bag that way would read as older too. Now the fixes, and there are three depending on the bag. A crossbody strap is the best of them. The bag sits at your hip, the weight goes across your torso rather than hanging off one joint, and both arms are completely free to hang and swing. Free arms are one of the youth signals from the walking section, so this fixes two things at once. A shoulder bag worn on the shoulder, with the strap on the shoulder and the bag behind your hip, does nearly as well. The key is letting it sit behind you rather than clutching it in front. And if you have a bag with short handles that genuinely cannot be worn any other way, carry it in your hand, down at your side. Arms straight, bag hanging. It looks entirely modern, the arm is relaxed, and the body stays open. That is one decision, made once, and it changes something about you that operates at every distance, every day, for the rest of your life. There is nothing else on this list with a better ratio of effort to effect. The fifth is visible maintenance, by which I mean any repeated small adjustment of yourself in public. Tugging a hem down, pushing a sleeve up, adjusting a scarf, pushing a barrette back, smoothing a top over the middle, turning a ring round, pulling at a waistband. Here is the principle, and it is one of the most useful ideas in this whole series. Nobody can see the thing you are adjusting. Everybody can see you adjusting it. The hem that has ridden up an inch is invisible from 6 feet away. The hand going down to pull it 4 times in a conversation is not. The barrette that has slipped is invisible. The reaching up to fix it is not. So the adjustment does not correct a visible problem. It creates one. And what it communicates is discomfort. Not physical discomfort, but the sense of somebody not quite at ease in what she is wearing. Checking on herself, managing. Ease is one of the strongest impressions of youth there is, and it is almost entirely behavioral. A woman who is not touching herself at all reads as comfortable in her own clothes, which reads as comfortable in herself. The fix is not willpower, and this is the important part. Telling yourself to stop fidgeting does not work, because the fidgeting is a response to a real irritation. The fix is to find the garment causing it and stop wearing it. Almost all of this behavior traces to 2 or 3 specific items: the top that rides up, the waistband that digs, the scarf that will not stay put, the barrette that slips. So do an audit rather than an act of will. For the next few days, notice what you adjust and which item you were wearing. You will find it is the same 3 things every time. Take those 3 out of rotation and the behavior disappears on its own because there is nothing left to correct. And when you are choosing new things, add 1 test to the changing room. Put it on, then move around properly for a minute, sit down, stand up, reach up, walk a few steps. If you have adjusted it once in that minute, you will adjust it 40 times a day. Do not buy it, however much you like it standing still. The 6th is matching everything. This is bag matching shoes, matching belt, the 3-piece coordination that was, for decades, the definition of being properly turned out. And it is worth saying plainly that this was correct advice, given sincerely, by people who knew what they were talking about at the time. If you learned it from your mother or from a magazine in the 70s, you learned the standard of the day and you learned it correctly. The standard changed, and nobody sends out a notice. Here is what deliberate matching signals now. A precisely coordinated set announces that the coordination was the point, that the outfit was assembled to a rule, and assembling to a rule reads as effortful and, more importantly, as belonging to an era when that rule existed. The current standard is tonal rather than matching, which means things relate to each other without being identical. a camel bag with brown boots, a navy belt with charcoal trousers, a tan shoe with a chocolate bag. Same family, different shades. It reads as considered rather than as coordinated, and considered is the impression you want. There is also a practical effect. Exact matching creates repeated identical points around the body, and the eye bounces between them. Tonal variation lets the eye move smoothly, and this extends beyond the bag and shoes. The matched jewelry set from the earrings video is the same principle. So is the two-piece outfit in one identical fabric worn together as it came. So is the scarf that exactly picks up one color in the blouse. The fix is genuinely one of subtraction. Break up one pairing. Wear the black shoes with the tan bag. Wear the necklace without the matching earrings. It requires nothing new, and it is instantly more current. If you want a rule to replace the old rule, here it is. Things should agree, not match. The seventh is the oldest item in the outfit. This is the one nobody expects, and it is worth understanding properly. When somebody looks at an outfit, they do not average the ages of the items in it. They date the whole thing by the oldest visible piece. So a woman in a current, well-cut coat, good trousers, a modern top, and a handbag from 1996 is not read as mostly current. She is read at 1996 because that bag is the only thing in the picture that carries a definite date, and definite information always beats vague information. This is why one item can undo an entire outfit, and it is why the effect feels so disproportionate. Everything else was neutral. Only one thing carried a signal, so that signal became the reading. The most common offenders are always the same, because they are the things we replace least often. A handbag, because a good one lasts 20 years and there is no reason to replace it. Shoes, for the same reason. Glasses frames, which get replaced only when the prescription changes. A winter coat, a watch, and any hair accessory, which we established is never reassessed at all. Notice the pattern. They are all the durable items. Clothes wear out and get replaced naturally, which keeps them roughly current without any effort. Accessories do not wear out, so they stay, sometimes for 30 years, quietly dating everything around them. The audit is straightforward, and you can do it this week. Lay out the 5 accessories you use most: everyday bag, everyday shoes, glasses, coat, watch. And for each one, ask roughly when you bought it. Anything over about 12 or 15 years old is worth a second look. Not because old is bad, a classic piece in good condition can be timeless, but because you should know which of your items carry a date, so that if you decide to keep one, you are choosing it rather than defaulting to it. And if you are going to replace one thing, replace the everyday bag. It is with you constantly, it is large and visible at distance, and it is the item most likely to be 20 years old without anybody having thought about it. Now the 40-foot test, because I promised it. Here is how to check all 7 at once, and it takes 1 minute. Have somebody film you on a phone, walking towards them, from about 30 or 40 feet away. Not a photograph, video, walking normally, not performing. Then watch it with the sound off. That is the view every stranger gets, and it is the one view you have literally never seen of yourself. You have seen photographs, which are static and posed. You have seen mirrors, which are close and stationary and reversed. You have never seen yourself move through space from a distance, and that is the exact data everybody else has been using. Watch for the specific things. Where is your head relative to your shoulders? How long is your stride, and are your eyes up or down? Are your arms swinging or are they occupied? Where is the bag and how is it being carried? Is there anything you keep touching? It is not a comfortable minute, and I want to be honest about that. But it is the only way to see the thing that is actually being read, and almost everybody who does it finds 1 or 2 things they had no idea about and can fix immediately. Do it again a fortnight later after you have worked on the breastbone lift and moved the bag. The difference in a fortnight is usually larger than anybody expects, because these are habits rather than conditions, and habits move quickly once you can see them. So let me bring all of it together. At distance, nobody can see your face, your skin, or your hair. They read your shape, your movement, and a handful of specific signals, and every one of them is free. The forward head, which curves the outline, shortens you, compresses the neck, and closes the chest. Lift the breastbone, not the shoulders, and do it 10 times a day against something you already do. The careful walk, shortened stride, flat landing, arms still, eyes down. Stable shoes, and look at the far end of the room rather than at the ground. The fig leaf, both hands clasped low in front, which closes the body and pulls the shoulders forward. Separate the hands, one on a hip, one holding something, one in a pocket, the bag in the crook of the elbow, which holds the arm in a tense raised position, bars the chest, and is dated to a precise era. Crossbody over the shoulder and behind the hip, or straight down at your side in your hand. Visible maintenance, tugging, smoothing, adjusting. Nobody sees the thing you are fixing, everybody sees you fixing it. Find the 2 or 3 garments causing it and retire them, and test for it in the changing room. Matching bag to shoes to belt, which announces that coordination was the point. Things should agree, not match. And the oldest item in the outfit, because an outfit is dated by its oldest visible piece, not by its average. Audit the 5 durable accessories and replace the everyday bag first. And the 40-foot test. 1 minute of video, walking, sound off, the only honest view. Now the last thing, and it is the reason I wanted to make this one. Everything on that list is a habit rather than a condition. Not one of them is your bone structure, your skin, your weight, your hair, or your age. Every single one arrived at some point for a reason that made sense at the time and then simply stayed because nobody ever pointed at it. Which means the entire list is available to you today for nothing. And I think there is something worth noticing about how those 7 habits accumulated. The head came forward from a life of looking down at useful work. The careful walk came from one wobble on a wet pavement. The hands clasped in front came from wanting to be polite. The bag went in the elbow because that was how a well-brought-up woman carried a bag. The fussing came from a garment that did not quite fit. The matching came from being taught properly by someone who cared. Not one of them is carelessness. Every single one is either a courtesy, a caution, or a rule you were taught correctly and kept. That is worth saying, because I do not want anybody watching this to feel caught out. You did not go wrong anywhere. The instructions changed quietly, and nobody was told. So do the video, lift the breastbone, and move the bag. That is 3 things, and it is most of the effect. Tell me in the comments whether you carry your bag in the crook of your elbow, because I would honestly like to know how many of you have just realized you do. And tell me if you are brave enough to do the 40-foot video, because I think the ones who do are going to have a lot to say about it. Subscribe if this was useful, because I make these for women who would rather change a habit than be told to accept a condition. I will see you in the next one.